Sigourney Weaver is held prisoner on a dangerous planet in Alien 3. Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman tracking a deranged killer in 7.
Penn gives Michael Douglas a dangerous birthday gift in the game.
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton start a violent secret society in Fight Club.
With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Coming up next, Alien 3 with Sigourney Weaver and another rematch against the Spider from Hell.
To escape. With the arrival of the next supply ship, the company would eliminate.
This is a maximum security prison, and you have no weapons of any kind?
Sigourney Weaver has just crash-landed on a prison planet in Alien 3, the third and least exciting, but in some ways the most interesting movie about that plague of spider-like monsters from outer space. Weaver's lifeboat has brought her to a shabby, dreary planet inhabited mostly by sex offenders, and she suspects there may have been a stowaway on her craft, another one of those loathsome, slimy creatures who have been crawling into her nightmares ever since the first Alien in 1979.
What happened? What started the fire, Bishop? Can you hear me?
The fire was electrical.
That's Lance Henriksen, or what's left of him, as the shattered android who crash-landed along with her. After she learns an alien may have followed her, Weaver has trouble convincing the locals of the danger.
Stop this raving at once!
I'm telling you! It's here!
Mr. Aaron, get that foolish woman back to the infirmary!
Too much of the movie is devoted to footage like this, an alien's eye view in which we quickly realize that a human could outrun this creature only in the movies.
Hey, Seven, close!
Over in the east wing! Door B7, safe!
Alien 3 is probably going to be a disappointment to most of the fans of the first two movies because it's dark, depressing, grungy, and lacking in the kind of high-tension action that closed the first and especially the second movie. But there are interesting elements here, especially the art direction, which creates this prison world in shades of rust and mold and despair. It's a great movie to look at, but the chase scenes at the end are drawn out and repetitious, and so I have to give it a thumbs down. This is probably the best-looking bad movie I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I had exactly the same reaction, too. I thought she did a real good job playing this character again the third time, and she makes her character interesting a third time. But I didn't think there was anything supporting her except maybe the look of the picture. The monster didn't show me any new tricks, and I felt, as you said, that I was really watching just a monster loose in the house movie, and I got tired of it at the end.
You know, I looked at Aliens, the second movie, on Laserdisc not very long ago. The end of that movie really winds up with a lot of tension. She has to go back into that space area station to try to rescue the little girl from the monster, and there's a lot of devious stuff going on. Remember when the monster figures out how to run the elevator? That was a great moment in that movie. Well, and in this film, it's just chase. They run around and around, and the monster runs around after them, and it goes on, and that's it.
That's it.
When we come back, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are on the trail of a twisted killer in 7.
I want you to listen. Okay? I wasn't standing around guarding the Taco Bell. I've worked homicide 5 years, not here. I understand that. Well, over the next 7 days, detective, you'll do me the favor of remembering that.
Morgan Freeman is the retiring veteran, and Brad Pitt is the ambitious younger detective who's just been assigned to the district. And although that's a cop movie formula as old as the hills, a new thriller named 7 makes it work. This is a very good movie that is sometimes hard to watch because of a level of violence and depravity that is unusual even among crime films. The movie begins with Freeman and Pitt investigating a couple of murders that seem to fit together. They explain the connection to their boss, played by R. Lee Ermey.
There are 7 deadly sins, Captain. Gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. You can expect 5 more of these.
The killer apparently plans murders inspired by every one of the 7 deadly sins, and after they almost trap him, he taunts them.
I'll be readjusting my schedule in light of today's little setback. Sorry I had to hurt one of you, but I didn't have a choice. You will accept my apology, won't you? I feel like saying more, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Meanwhile, the murder string grows longer, and notice here how Freeman and Pitt have become obsessed by the case.
No fingerprints. Totally unrelated victims.
Yeah.
And no witnesses of any kind.
I don't get it.
Seven was directed by David Fincher, who also made Alien 3, and he makes it into a very dark movie. It's set in the present day, but the production design suggests the 1940s. The look and the dialogue create an atmosphere that really involved me. I was surprised how caught up I got in this movie and in the behavior of the characters. Be warned, it's very disturbing and not for younger viewers. 7 is R-rated, which is ironic because actually it's a lot more intense than the NC-17 rated Showgirls. But it's very well made.
I had an identical reaction to the picture, and I was just about to say the same thing. This is a picture that I would have rated NC-17. I do think it's worth seeing. I think it may be needlessly grotesque, and I mean that as a compliment. I don't think that the director, I think he has such a good screenplay, and two wonderful actors who really have a lot of chemistry together without it seeming ever to be forced, but seeming to be natural at all times, that I don't think he need to be as graphic in his portrayal of the crimes that are being committed.
I think the whole purpose of this movie is to take these people into the Dante's Inferno of a big city and to take them right down into the most horrible environs. Yeah. And I think that in many cases, the detail of the crimes, which are very bizarre and very inventive in their own way, are part of that. I think that he really wants to give us an experience of evil in the same way that Silence of the Lambs did.
I think he could have done it another way. Still, I do recommend the film. When we come back, the game is just the sort of gift to get a rich executive with time on his hands and major psychological issues unresolved in his or her life. And that defines Michael Douglas's character in the new movie called The Game, in which his no-account degenerate younger brother, Sean Penn, gets an intriguing gift for his rich Prince of the City older brother.
Consumer Recreation Services. Well, I do have golf clubs.
Call that number.
Why?
They make your life fun.
Fun?
You know what that is? You've seen other people have. It's an entertainment service.
An escort service?
A profound life experience.
Naturally, Douglas's character can't resist a visit to the company where he gets the pitch from a creepy guy played by James Rebhorn, a good character actor who we're going to see a lot more of because of this film.
It's a game.
A game?
Specifically tailored for each participant. Think of it as a great vacation. Except you don't go to it. It comes to you.
Well, what kind of vacation?
It's different every time.
Humor me with specifics.
We provide whatever's lacking.
Basically, the game is a series of intense psychological tests that prey on a participant's weaknesses in an effort to teach him about himself, teach him to confront his demons. Douglas doesn't realize this at first, as he and a waitress he's met, played by Deborah Carr Unger, find themselves in corporate offices that are a front for testing his mental and physical strength.
We'll wait for security to come, and we'll just explain.
Oh, they'll love that. Explain for both of us.
Wait. We don't want to draw any tension, just out for a stroll.
Run.
Later, is it paranoia or reality or the game, as Douglas finds himself in a taxi that he suddenly fears is controlled by the creators of the game.
No, stop the car! Stop the car! Thank you. Open the door. Lock the door. Open the...
The setup of the game and the setup of Michael Douglas's character, a rich kid who saw his wealthy young father commit suicide, is really the best part. Those two parts are the best parts of this picture. Douglas handles power and money better than any actor today. Think of his movies, Wall Street, The American President, and now The Game. But this story doesn't really go anywhere surprising. I didn't think the payoff of the movie was that creative, and the big concept is quite easy to figure out. And just as important, I'm not really sure what Michael Douglas learns at the end of the game. It's a well-performed, handsomely designed motion picture, but a lot less meaningful, I think, than the filmmakers may have intended. A close call, but I really only like the first hour of the game.
I couldn't disagree with you more. This is a really splendidly entertaining movie by David Fincher, the man who made Seven, and he does find out something at the end. He is brought down to reality. This egocentric, distant, cold person is reduced to a level of being, I think, more of a human being. But apart from that, the fact that we know it's a game is given away in the title. Of course we know it's a game. And of course we know that everything that's happening isn't real. And of course that's the whole idea, because there were layers under layers under layers and a wonderfully photographed and acted and written story.
I said wonderfully photographed and acted. But the many, many layers that you're talking about, Roger, are not that many.
Yes, there are. There are a lot of times when you don't know what's happening and you're surprised.
Not me.
When he goes in a taxi cab off the edge of the pier and is about to drown, looked like it was real as far as I was concerned. I think you really have gotten a very entertaining movie here, and you've praised his setup, The Rich Kid Who Sees His Father Dies. Those are home movies in the opening titles.
Did you hear me say
for you, the
those
movie
things?
is over after 4 minutes.
No, it isn't, because can you remember what I said? Do you remember somebody looking like me saying just a few seconds ago, I liked the first hour? That's true, Roger. I liked half of it.
Okay. It's called Fight Club, and it's a brutal and satirical film about a character who believes that men are lost and powerless in today's society. His recommendation: if they get together on a regular basis and pound each other to a bloody pulp, they'll be a lot happier and more effective. As the movie opens, we meet the narrator, played by Edward Norton, who fears he's going crazy, driven mad by capitalism and consumerism. As a way of venting his grief, he attends 12-step meetings for people with real problems. He's a tourist, and one day he meets another faker, played by Helena Bonham Carter.
I've seen you. I saw you with melanoma, I saw you had tuberculosis, I saw you had testicular cancer.
I saw you practicing it.
Practicing what?
Telling me off. Is it going as well as you hoped?
He's in worse shape than ever when he meets Tyler Durden, who wants to be hit hard. He's played by Brad Pitt.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Why? How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight.
Tyler Durden becomes the founder of a secret male society named Fight Club that stages bloody brawls in basements.
Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to.
One of the narrator's support group friends is a guy named Bob, played by Meatloaf a Day. They share what they know about the founder of Fight Club.
Supposedly, he was born in a mental institution, and he sleeps only 1 hour a night. He's a great man. Oh. Do you know about Tyler Durden?
The movie is very well made by David Fincher, who also directed Seven, but it goes from good to bad to worse in its story, I think. The opening is savage social satire, very promising. I really liked it. But then the movie switches over to stylish brutality and despair. It's kind of a quasi-fascist vomitorium. Fight Club contains the raw materials for a great film, but I don't think it had the courage to go all the way with its original vision from hell, and instead it turns into stylish macho porn and blows stuff up real good. It claims to be, I think, against violence, but at the same time it exploits it like crazy. I don't think a lot of people in the audience are going to get what it thinks its message is.
I couldn't disagree with you more, but I did like your line about stylish macho porn. That was beautiful. I'm a person very much opposed to violence, gratuitous violence in movies. However, I found myself being wrapped up in this. I understood why these guys were rebelling against society, wanting to punch the crap out of each other. It wrapped me up from start to finish. I really felt involved in this movie. Pitt and Norton were wonderful in each of their roles.
Oh, they are, yeah.
They were wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I always looked to Norton to provide me with that dose of reality when the psychotic Pitt was taking me to places that I didn't want to go. I thought it was a really comprehensive film.
Why couldn't they have been allowed to interact on the level of personal psychological crisis instead of the whole movie having to be escalated into some kind of an apocalyptic vision, which is basically on autopilot. I mean, the last half of this movie we've seen before in many different ways in many other films, and I would have liked it if they'd stuck with the original vision.
But they did. I mean, as the film progressed, so did his psychoses. I mean, the fact is they were trying to take us inside of this man's mind, and that's what happened, and that's why it kept getting more intense, in my opinion.
Well, I know that many people are going to agree with your opinion. I'm sure that's going to be the majority view on this film, but I just felt that the first half hour made me think, boy, this movie's going to take off and fly. It's going to go all the way, and then for it to just turn into a more routine
handling of the same material disappointed.
Well, and I found that I was going to agree with you. I didn't plan on liking it, and it really brought me into it, and I got wrapped up in the film.
Okay.
All right.
Good stuff, good stuff. All right, continuing on, Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Robert Downey Jr. give outstanding performances in my #7 film, Zodiac. This is David Fincher's richly detailed and deeply chilling take on one of the most notorious serial killer cases of the 20th century.
Do you know that more people die in the East Bay commute every 3 months than that idiot ever killed? He offed a few citizens, he wrote a few letters, and he faded into footnote. Not that I haven't been sitting here idly waiting for you to drop by and reinvigorate my sense of purpose.
Well, those are two very, very dark, very violent, but very well-observed movies. Zodiac, in particular, I think it got a little bit overlooked, maybe, by audiences at the beginning of the year, but I think that's one that people are going to be watching and going back to and thinking about.
I think so, too. I think it's going to be
a
big hit and a lasting hit on DVD.
I think so. I think so.
I'll be around.
Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part.